Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another amazing episode on the Unleashing Potentials podcast. My name is Bernadette Desir, and I'm your host. And joining me today is Albert Crimi. How are you?
Great, Bernadette. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. How's
Yeah.
how's technology treating you these days?
Well, as you know, not that well, not in the last half hour anyway, but there you are and here I am and we made it happen.
Yes, yes, definitely. So, Albert, for those who haven't watched your episode, can you tell us who are you and what is it that you do and how do you do it?
I do a specialized form of hypnosis therapy called past life regression, which is a hypnosis protocol. The idea being that the client is taken to a much deeper level and has access to much more information that they normally would in the with regular hypnosis or even with just meditation or anything like that. So we can, if you wish, we can talk a little bit about that as well. But
Mhm.
that's basically what I do. It's
Yeah.
some people call us hypnotherapists. I really don't like the word therapist. I don't feel like a therapist. I don't look like a therapist.
Yeah.
Um, Facilitator is a good title for what I am, and another really good title for what I am is a spiritually oriented investigative reporter. Really, I
Mhm.
get the information, put
Yeah.
it all together for the client, give it to them, and then they go off and do whatever it is they need to do for their upgrading or their healing or whatever it is that they're looking for.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead and share more about what you would like to with us.
Um, well, we were talking about my particular branch of it, which is past life regression. You have what we call conventional hypnosis, right? The I want to quit smoking or I want to lose a couple of pounds or whatever. That type of hypnosis, people ask me all the time. That type of hypnosis requires a certain depth of what we call trance depth, okay, which is what we call the alpha brainwave state, which is very similar to the brainwave state that you will experience when you're meditating
Mm.
or in deep thought or contemplating or anything like that. Okay, so in that state, you have access to, let's say, that much information, okay, in the meditative state. Of course, in the awake state, which we call talk therapy, you have access to that much information. Okay, I'm just giving you a sort of an example with my using my hand.
Mhm.
Now, when you have someone such as myself, which does past life regression hypnosis, we guide the client into what's called the theta brainwave state. Okay. Now you have access to, well, my arms can't go that wide. Okay. A million miles that way and a million miles that way. And you basically have access now to universal information. Okay. The spiritual community calls it the Akashic records. Quantum physics calls it the information field or the quantum field or the 0 point field. There's a lot of titles for the same thing, but basically, you now have access to universal information. So if you're wanting to know your life purpose, that's where you're going to discover it because or your soul purpose,
Mhm.
because now you have a direct connection to your higher mind. So that information is totally available to you. Okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
So ultimately, Bernadette, that's what it boils down to. People say, "Can you help me with this physical thing, or this emotional thing, or this whatever it is they're interested in?"
Mhm.
But really, it all boils down to soul purpose. It all boils down to that one universal question: Why were you born? Why are you here in this time, in this space, in this body? And what was your plan? There was one. That's the thing that most of us don't realize, and probably 99% of us don't realize it. There was a plan. So instead of asking the little questions like, how can you make my back pain go away? Or how can I, experience less stress and all that? Those are just the symptoms. What you should be going after is the big question, which is, why were you born? What's your soul purpose? What's your life purpose? Because once that information enters your consciousness, or a better word would be remembering, because there's nothing that's forgotten. You're just remembering it. Um, Everything else drops off.
Yeah.
You don't have to it's sort of like, it's kind of like dealing with someone with a liver issue and, giving them drugs and giving them surgeries and all this stuff. And it's kind of like never asking them if they drink a liter of alcohol a day. You know what I mean? It's like maybe you should be asking them about the big thing, the alcohol thing. In other words, in my world, maybe you should be finding out their soul purpose or their life purpose, because then
Mhm.
everything just nicely falls into place after that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you for sharing. Thank
Okay.
you. Yeah, those are some pretty big questions. And I
Yeah.
think from my own situation, I've asked those questions the more awake I feel.
Right.
Because we don't remember why we come down here. Not
Right.
everyone is connected to communities like yours or work.
Right.
Um, how can those of us who remember or sort of remember guide those who have no clue? They're walking zombies around and
Right.
they feel that they have no purpose or meaning in this life.
Right. How can we assist those that are perhaps haven't come to that place yet, come
Yeah.
to that understanding or that vibration? Wow, that's a big question, Bernadette. Um, Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. Sometimes this is going down the rabbit hole a little bit. Some people are here in this physical body as what we describe as background players.
Mm,
Okay. Dolores Cannon, I don't know if you're familiar with Dolores
I've
Cannon.
heard
She's
about her.
right. She's the grandmother of past life regression therapy. She's written 20 books. She describes them as background players, and meaning that they're here just to assist the simulation.
Mhm.
Okay. Because this is kind of like a play we're in. It's we a play that we take way too seriously. Okay.
That's true.
So those folks are there for that reason, and they're not available for change. They're not open to change. They synchronistically they won't even be in a place where you're going to be even having this conversation with them. But there are those that are open to change. Of course, I guess the answer is synchronicity, because if you're able to offer this vibration, and you don't do it in words so much as you do it in energy
Yeah.
that you emanate. The fact that the fact that they're in your space, you are able to inspire them or to affect them in such a way that will bring up their vibration, and so that they can start the journey or go on that path on their own. You can't make someone do that, right? Of course, there's free will, and that's part of our universal God gift. And so the person has to want to do it, or has to step into that themselves.
Mhm.
It's sort of like when a lady will say to me, "Well, how do I bring my husband into this? He's quite resistant." And I'll say to her, "Well, you don't bring him
Yeah.
into this. You don't. You work on yourself, right? You change or you adjust your vibration. Now it's his choice whether he wants to step into that. If he wants to adjust his, like, look at it like a radio station. It's now his choice whether he wants to adjust his radio station to match your frequency. And if he does, well, then things are going to go really, really well. And if he doesn't, well, then I think you know where that's going to go with that relationship, right?
Yeah.
Which is a gift anyway,
Mhm.
because now that space has been provided for who is truly supposed to be stepping into that space.
Mhm.
Okay, so later on, that will be recognized as a gift, that partner stepping out of the way vibrationally to allow for that next partner, if that makes any sense.
Oh, that does.
Yeah,
In my household, and my mom sort of believe, the stuff I've experienced because ever since I was born, even as a baby, I was seeing stuff. And
right.
I always I've always been drawn to fantasy movies.
Right,
When they show different clips of people going back to the past or the future.
right,
Now that I've seen so much, I'm like, this makes sense that I've
right,
always been that connected to it. But
right.
I wanted to touch a bit on the word free will.
Mm,
My human flesh is really wrestling with the spiritual
mm,
part, maybe because I'm not completely 100% open to where ascended masters or beings are to understand that.
mm.
Um, what are your thoughts on when people abuse other people's power or space or use them? What is that free will? Or are they abusing it? I'm trying to put it into perspective, but I want to hear your thought on it.
Well, it is free will for sure.
Mm.
Nothing could happen to you without your permission. No exception. That's just the way it is. So if it's happening to you, if you're let's say you're the victim,
Mm.
if that unwanted behavior or that unwanted circumstances are happening to you on some level, okay, most of the time it's not conscious. Most of the time it's unconscious or subconscious. It's happening for a reason. Okay, so in a past life, it may play out as something that has happened that has now become a repeating pattern. So a negative repeating pattern between two members or three members or whatever of that same soul group. Okay, so the opportunity in this lifetime is now to recognize it as a repeating pattern, spiritually speaking, incarnationally speaking,
Mm.
and now utilizing your free will to say the pattern ends in this lifetime. Okay. I no longer want that to, and once that pattern ends, it ends and it reverberates into the future and it reverberates into the past as well. Every change is a complete change. Okay. So it's a huge opportunity once that pattern is broken. You affect pretty much everything on a universal level as far as ascension goes. I would even say it would be your responsibility to do the work. It would be anything less would be an act of arrogance, I would say.
Yeah.
That's why you're here is to get the work done. And I know that you're doing your part and you're doing your work and you have your challenges slash gifts, which are both. And we talked about
Yeah.
that last time, right? And
Yeah.
yeah, so I hope that answers your question. Yeah,
Oh, yeah, it does. Yeah, yeah. Um, I mean, I'll still have questions. I don't understand why I chose to suffer this much in this life
right.
versus
Yeah,
others, because I've been slaves in some and I've been princesses in some. I've been men.
right.
Now I'm female. I keep coming back as a black female. Uh,
Right.
some things I'll never understand, and that's okay.
And that's okay. Yeah. Yeah. Well, you have access to that information. You know that. So on your spiritual journey, let's say you were going to have a past life regression session, that would be a question on your list is why have I been this, and this, and why am I suffering in this lifetime? Now, remember, Bernadette, suffering is just a word that you chose that carries a lot of energy. You might want to consider changing that word to
Yeah.
something a little bit softer, maybe experiencing
Mm.
or whatever,
Yeah.
upgrading, change that word because suffering is a pretty heavy word.
Yeah, it's dense. Yeah, it's
It's a
just
it's
the
a
energy.
it's a
Yeah.
dense, heavy word
Mhm.
because obviously you're here for a reason. You're doing the work that you're doing, which is important work, which is in service to humanity, if you want to call it that.
Mm.
So you're doing it for a reason, and the bigger the contrast, the bigger the opportunity. So in your case, you call it suffering, but we can call it opportunity if we want to reframe it in that way. Sort of like OCD, right? OCD is a pretty nasty one for some people, especially if it gets out of control. Okay,
Yeah.
they become fearful of everything and they want to control everything and they overthink things and they overstress things. And it can become a bit of a problem if it goes too far.
Mhm.
So someone might say to me, well, that doesn't sound like an opportunity at all. That sounds something that they need to stop right away because I don't know if you know it, but spending time with someone with severe OCD is not a lot of fun.
No, no, it's not.
No, it's very energy draining
Yeah.
just being in their presence.
Mhm.
So where's the opportunity? Well, the opportunity is that the fact that they're even experiencing this level of control, we call them control freaks, right? That's what
Yeah.
it's not a nice term, but that's what we call them. Oh, she's such a control freak, or
Mm-hmm.
he's such a control freak.
Yeah.
The opportunity is that once they finally surrender and let go, it's kind of like they slingshot so far into the opposite, which represents spirituality, which represents ascension, which represents all that stuff, that their lives would be changed in that moment. Okay, so OCD, something that seems really negative, is actually a great opportunity if they surrender, if they let go. If they don't, then they just become a pain in everybody's life, as you know. Okay.
Yeah.
So from a past life regression perspective, an OCD person, if we can get them to calm their mind for long enough, okay, and have them enter into that experience, they will almost always discover a past life where something or someone held absolute control over them that brought extreme trauma and most likely brought death to them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, from a soul perspective, you would imagine that that soul would say, well, in my next incarnation, I'm going to incarnate where I am in total control of my life. I will have absolute control, which is the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
So you land on planet Earth with all this craziness and the government and all the way things are and media and negative media and all that, that control, which would have served them spiritually and properly, has now got out of control.
Yeah.
Okay. So now it's their choice. Of course, there's always, it's a choice. You can't make someone do something. Their choice is now to recognize it as such,
Mm-hmm.
which comes from spiritual study and things like things we're talking about, and surrender, let go, and that will catapult them or slingshot them way into spirituality, which that's where things get really good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then chances are they go into this kind of work from whatever it is that they were doing previously. So that's an opportunity, a really great opportunity. And if you like, we can also talk about ADHD being a spiritual opportunity as well.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I remember in the last interview we had, which
Hmm.
I absolutely love. I'll
Yeah.
continue to invite you to share because I think people need to hear what you
Right.
have to say. You
Right.
talked about schizophrenia, which I'm diagnosed with, and
Right.
also borderline. I created
Oh,
shorts
yeah.
of those and shared with people.
Right.
So yes, please tell me more.
Yeah. So
I
yeah.
enjoy learning. Tell me more.
Yeah, that's good. We got a little thing going on where we put a spiritual spin on things that
Yeah,
society thinks are negative things,
yeah,
right? Yeah, that's good. So I like that. Okay, we'll make a thing out of that.
yeah.
Um, so ADHD is different than OCD. OCD, let's look at it like something that happened in a past life that was karmically carried over.
Mm,
Okay, and it's creating a whatever atmosphere in this life, whether it's serving them or creating a really complicated life. Now, ADHD is different. ADHD needs to be looked at as an evolutionary upgrade,
mm,
almost like a new species in a sense. Their DNA has different whatever encoding, or it's an upgrade. So with ADHD,
mhm.
it's not the individual or the child not fitting into the system. It's the complete opposite. It's the system that's not up to speed with the individual.
Yeah.
It's completely backwards. So when I get a client that comes in for a past life regression session, and they have on their list of questions ADHD, how do I get rid of it, and all this kind of stuff, the higher mind always answers that they're experiencing it for a purpose. There's nothing to remove or nothing to take out or nothing to change. It's serving them in whatever way that it needs to serve them for their soul plan in this particular lifetime. Okay. So if they need to do five things at the same time and spin around, well, then that's the way it needs to be. They need to be wired that way. Okay. Now, of course, we all know that having a partner that's got ADHD could be a little bit tricky, but from a higher perspective, from a spiritual perspective, it's a soul plan. Okay. Now, people do deal with it in the wrong way. That's for sure. So you'll have ADHD people that came up with this brilliant idea that alcohol and marijuana is going to fix the whole problem for them. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I would describe that as going down the wrong path.
Mhm.
Okay. Where they should probably most likely not use those as coping mechanisms and just let the full
Yeah.
ADHD come to the surface and figure out a way to deal with it. Okay. The best way to deal with it, I would think, is to experience a past life regression experience and ask all the questions of the higher mind so that you can gain a more spiritual perspective. And the spiritual perspective will be do not drink alcohol on top of it and do not smoke pot 7 days a week, 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
Okay. So that would be the higher perspective, certainly.
Hmm.
Okay. If
Hmm.
that makes any sense. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you say that everybody can be regressed? An example I can give you for me is that with schizophrenia, obviously I don't experience the symptoms as bad, but there's residue of the feelings and different things I've experienced. For the longest time, before I started to meditate years ago, and I still do up to this day, it was very hard for me to hear another voice in my and through my headphone.
Mhm.
Yeah, but once I let go, it's like an NDE. I just left my body and I saw lights and I felt connected to everything and the fear is gone. I've been meditating for a long time now, every day.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, as you know now, you certainly have a gift, of course, and it's your gift is packaged in a way that unfortunately society sees as a problem that needs to be removed or medicated or whatever the case may be. So, so for you, in your case, things are going to be described in the way that you just described them, where you saw the light and now things are really magical. But for your run-of-the-mill case of ADHD and all that, I think the question was, are they able to
To
experience
regress,
regression?
yeah, because
Are they able
of
to
the
regress?
mind, because of the mind,
Right,
it's
exactly.
so busy and
It's
frightening.
Yeah, that's a fantastic question, Bernadette, because that is a bit of a catch-22 because the very thing that is perfect for their understanding and their healing, if you want to call it that, is past life regression. But the thing that they're experiencing is kind of working against them going into the trance state or going into the hypnotic state. So you're right about that. So I have a client coming up soon, and I questioned whether he's going to be able to. I can tell just by the interview.
Yeah.
He's never meditated. He hasn't done any of that stuff, and he's experiencing some pretty severe anxiety and depression and things like that. So in those cases, I have to give them homework. So his homework was practice quieting your mind techniques, like such as meditation.
Mhm.
And I have to make sure I always say to them, do it for, I pick a small number. I
Yeah.
say something like, I want you to do it for 5 minutes. And then they say something like, that's it, 5 minutes? It's like, yeah, 5 minutes. That's all it is. Because if you say do it for 45 minutes, you'll lose them.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 5 minutes. And the other homework I gave this particular person was breath work. Okay.
Mm,
Because breath work will get you out of your critical mind, out of your chatter mind. So that's what we do to prepare them. And then on the day of the session, we do that again
yeah.
in the beginning of it. Okay, so just to get them to the trance state that's necessary. Oh boy, we're working on them for
Yeah.
it's like an hour long meditation just to get them there. So we really work on it. It's not like a simple meditation class that you go to where, the whole thing is 45 minutes start to finish. We are working just on getting to the right brain frequency. We go after that for about an hour or so, or 50 minutes, something like that. I've never timed it, but it's a long time.
Hmm.
Okay, so even the toughest mind, even the most resistant mind, all of a sudden now has a much greater opportunity to allow themselves to go into that state.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
pre-talk is really important. I have for someone resistant like that, I have to speak to them about imagination, and I always bring up this idea that the word magic is contained within imagination. Imagination, right? So I say to them, the use of your imagination is really, really important. Okay. At first, it will feel to you as though you're making it up. Okay. If you have an underactive imagination, if you come from OCD, it
Mhm.
will feel that way. But if you can just surrender yourself and just go for it, eventually the experience will stop feeling like you're making it up and it'll start feeling like an actual recall or a remembering.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Hmm.
it's that was a good question. Yeah, because sometimes if we don't talk about that, sometimes those that are listening to us have a conversation, they might think, well, everyone in the world is having this amazing, profound experiences.
Hmm.
Um, Everybody gets what they need. There is no such thing as not successful. Every session is successful. Really, the question is very profound versus not very profound.
Yeah.
That's really the question. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
The higher mind gives you what you need at this exact moment. So every session is successful in that way, in
Yeah.
that respect. So, yeah, I hope that answered your question.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. That
very
makes
good.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who are the Akashic Records keepers? I've heard of them. Some
Yeah,
people are actually able to go straight to the Akashic Records. I
right,
don't know how to do that. What I
right,
know is I've had many past life visions that I do past life regressions on myself. I
right.
listen at night and it takes me places.
Mm,
Sometimes I come back so exhausted, it's like I
mm,
never slept. But
mm.
the keepers, do they show us exactly what we need? Because if it was the human aspect of us accessing all of that, we may take all of it or more and then
Yeah, yeah,
overwhelm our system from
yeah,
properly upgrading.
yeah. Wow, another really good question. Yes, exactly. They will show you what you need. They will not show you what you want. So there was a client, I don't know, probably a year ago or so. She found herself in a library, a spiritual library, where she was I don't know the word for it. I don't remember the caretaker or the person that was there taking care of things. And it
Yeah.
was a spiritual library. So we we started asking questions, and what came out was that the only information that could be observed and
Mhm.
extracted was the stuff that had a need attached to it, not a want.
Wow.
Okay. So the information that I don't, I don't know what an example of something you want. Perhaps if a client said, will my daughter marry a rich man? That is not information that you need. That is information that you want.
Yeah.
So that it wouldn't be an appropriate question. You wouldn't get answers to that. That
Yeah.
that book wouldn't be opened up.
Yeah.
Now, also, you got to remember that different people describe this thing called the Akashic Records in a different way. You got to remember your beliefs and the images that you create in your mind are what manifest as that experience. So if you see it as a library, it will show itself as a library. If you see it as in a different form, in a grand hall or whatever it is, that's what you're going to experience, you
Mm,
know. And it's the same thing with the death experience, and we know that from the NDEs that depending on whether they're spiritual or religious or what their beliefs are, that's what they will experience, at least initially anyway.
mm,
Okay, so that image will form itself in that shape,
mhm.
in that way. So
Yeah.
I think the most important part of this discussion with the Akashic records is that it will give you what you need, not what you want. It needs to be appropriate. If if I ask, if we're at the Akashic records and we ask the question, can we remove the schizophrenia? The answer might come out as no. That might be no, absolutely
Yeah.
not. This was chosen. This was chosen, and this is an integral part of this of my soul journey in this time. Without it, I wouldn't have those profound remembrances. Without it, I wouldn't be doing this podcast. Without it, I wouldn't be affecting the world, and so on and so on and so on. So, so
Yeah, that
that
makes
would
sense.
so you don't always get what you think you want. I shouldn't say what you want, but what you
Yeah.
think you want.
Yeah. Yeah, that
You
makes
get
sense. Yeah.
you get what's appropriate for this time. So, like I said before, the clients ask about the ADHD, and the higher mind says, no, 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 that's not going anywhere. That was part of your plan. That's
Yeah.
it's removing it would. I don't even know if it would be possible to remove it, but assuming that we could by force, then it would probably cause a devastation to that individual's life.
Yeah. Yeah, that
It would
makes sense.
it would lead them in the wrong way. Yeah. Good
Yeah.
question, Bernadette. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Can you talk to us about channeling divine information? Is it
Yeah.
accessible to all of us because we are part of it? I don't even have, it doesn't have gender really. I just call it it.
Right. Yeah. That's a good way to, yeah, you could call it for sure. Channeling divine information is something that we all have access to. Of course, um, practice makes perfect for some of us, but there are some that are naturally or they're tuned into that. So during a session, occasionally, I can't say it happens often because it doesn't happen often, but occasionally I can see that the client goes into a channeling state of mind. And I
Mhm.
can tell by the way the face is resting, the skin tone, and I can also tell by the tone of the voice. The tone changes. So sometimes they can spontaneously go into a channeling event. From that, in those rare cases when that happens, I almost don't even have to ask questions out loud anymore. I can just think them. Okay, because now it becomes more of a telepathic sort of communication.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another thing is that a session, what we call past life regression session, can be reconfigured if you have someone such as yourself or someone that is skilled at channeling. We
Mhm.
can use that as a method of having a group channeling event where we invite guests and stuff, and everyone brings their questions to the table, and we can use a what we normally call a past life regression session. We can reform it or reshape it into a channeling event with that particular person.
Yeah.
So when you're speaking to the higher mind, to be quite honest, it is the channeling frequency. Okay. During the past life regression part where you're recalling other incarnations,
Mhm.
that is not the channeling frequency. But once I move them into the speak into the higher mind, it's almost like if you were in a car, it would be like going from fourth gear to fifth gear.
Mhm.
Okay. It's like now we've changed the frequency. So in a sense, every session ends up as a sort of channeling event when
Yeah.
we're speaking with the higher mind, but with someone such as yourself or someone that's really tuned into that or really skilled at that, boy, that can be taken to a whole other level.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
And you can ask universal questions and you can ask questions about existence and some of the more the universal stuff, I would
Yeah.
say. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
During your work, do some clients connect with what we call alien star seeds. What are your thoughts on that? Because I've connected, and I have no clue where I am half of the time.
Yeah,
But yeah, I saw myself on a spaceship.
right,
It was my consciousness, but a different vessel,
right.
just overlooking Earth. So I don't know what that was about. I want to
Yeah,
hear your thoughts on that.
yeah, absolutely, for sure. Again, we call the work past life regression, but we have to make it clear to people it could be same life, or it could be other life, it could be ET life, it could be interdimensional life, it could be anything. So on those in those sessions where I have a client such as yourself, yes, we will experience things like that where they're in a vessel that is not does not look human.
Yeah.
Okay. And those sessions are fantastic, obviously, because from my perspective, they're highly entertaining and they're a lot of fun, of
Yeah.
course. There was a client about a week ago, and he started out, he popped into a past life,
Mm,
um, which he described as a sort of a like a Mennonite sort of community.
hmm.
Okay. And later on, we found out afterwards that that was just to get him warmed up. Okay.
Oh,
Because after that, things went, I don't know how to describe it exactly. He started traveling the universe and I went for the ride with him and we were going down wormholes,
mm,
what he was describing as wormholes. And he was describing them in great detail, their frequency and where they take you. And we went there and we went to four different places.
wow.
The first wormhole landed us in one existence, I guess you can call it, where things were going on. And then another one and a third one and then a fourth one. And everything that was being experienced and being seen didn't resemble Earth at all. It was It was like it reminded me of a channeler. His name is 𝒍𝒃𝒏𝒄𝒃, but he channels Bashar. Are you familiar with
Yes,
Bashar?
yes, I am.
Right.
Yeah.
It reminded me that experience with this particular client reminded me of what Bashar said, where he said, if you could imagine anything, that means that it must exist.
Wow.
Not non-existence cannot be imagined.
Yeah.
So that reminded me of that because some of the stuff he was saying to me was very bizarre and highly strange.
Mm,
And but it was very very detailed. And you know, and you think, well, why would he be shown that? My answer to that is truly, I don't know why he would be shown that because the reason why he came was to gain clarity on his relationship with his children. He had become estranged from his children, so he wanted clarity on that.
mhm,
So one might say, well, why would he be shown all these wormhole experiences? What's that got to do with the children?
mm,
Which is interesting, is because well, he's down the spiritual path. We know that, and we know that he's going to be doing something very important in the spiritual teachings. We know that. So perhaps that's why he was shown that. And the answer his higher mind gave him
mhm.
was that this time apart from his children is not wasted. It is valuable time so that they can get to a vibration where they can finally match with his and be able to take the relationship from that point on. In fact, it might be detrimental for him to force himself onto the relationship at this earlier stage without allowing that work to be done, allowing that vibration elevation to happen within the children themselves.
Mm.
So it's just so interesting how all this stuff comes together and
Yeah.
all these experiences and
Mhm. Yeah.
yeah, really interesting, really
Yeah,
good.
definitely.
Yeah,
So I see that you recommend the book Many Lives, Many Masters. I've listened to it and I'm gonna be listening to it again.
right,
Why do you recommend that book? Everybody loves Brian Weiss, but I want to know
right.
why.
Well, that was the well, for it was the first book I ever read on this topic, on the topic of past life regression. So Probably that's why. That was the book that changed everything.
Yeah.
Okay. There was a seed was planted in my consciousness many years before that. I was at a conference, working at a conference, not in your neighborhood of Canada,
Yeah.
and I had met someone, and this individual, just for a brief period, this individual said that we shared a life together in a past life, and at that time, I had no idea what she was talking about. I thought, okay, well, she's drinking or doing drugs or something, probably. Who knows? But it
Yeah.
was interesting because that seed was planted. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I saw in her eyes that she was not joking. She actually meant that.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, okay, well, that's an interesting thing. So that seed that carried with me. And then when the Brian Weiss book landed on my lap, it was almost like that door got opened up.
Yeah.
Okay, it unleashed everything that needed to be in that time to orchestrate what my work would become from that moment on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so again, synchronicity. Nothing, no event is goes to waste. Everything is meaningful. Yeah. So, and the book is, as you know, is fantastic because it
Oh, it
tells
is.
the
Yeah.
simple story of is her name Catherine?
Yeah. Yeah.
The simple story of Catherine and how her healing unfolds over a period of time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a book that is appeals to the past life regressionist and also to the layman, anyone just curious about things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I love that. She went through so many different lifetimes with
Right,
in so many different eras.
right,
So many, she's been many things, many
right,
gender. Well, there's
yeah,
two, but sometimes there was no gender to
right.
describe it. It's
That's right.
fascinating.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So do you have anything else you'd like to share as we wrap up this amazing
yeah.
episode that I don't want to end, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I'll continue with what you just said a moment ago. Could
Mhm.
you imagine if past life regression was normalized and everyone just did it
Mm,
like taking their vitamins, doing whatever?
yeah,
What would happen if everybody realized that they were both male,
yeah,
female, that they were both straight and they were both gay and they were both brown and they were both white and they were all of it.
yeah,
They were murderers and they were saviors and they were, could
yeah,
you imagine what would happen? The world would just
yeah,
go into what's the word I'm looking for? Homeostasis. It would just spiritually balance itself out and we would live in,
mhm,
a utopian society, which is what the goal is.
yeah,
And so for that reason alone, I think the work is important.
yeah,
You know it and I know it, but
mm,
of course, as you know as well, is that the vast majority don't know that.
yeah, that's true. Yeah,
So I think that would be something beautiful for everyone to experience and to at least strive for that. You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
if your anger issues are too out of control right now, then sort that out. Start a meditation process. When you think you've come to a point where you can calm your nervous system just enough, then go have a hypnosis session.
yeah,
Take the exploration to the next level. Take the remembering to the next level.
hmm,
Okay, where you're not only just helping yourself and healing yourself, you're also contributing to the all for
yeah,
planetary healing. What we call the collective consciousness, which is important as well. That's what you do,
yeah, yeah,
right?
definitely. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and I'm so grateful I've come to the conclusion of everything you've shared. I really don't see people's color, their
Hmm.
religion,
That's right.
their belief,
That's right.
because we're all here for a different reason. And I already know on the other side, which we call it, or other dimension,
Right.
there are no colors.
There are
It
no
is only
colors.
on Earth that what's going down here is going. Because as you ascend, like everything is one. There's no separation.
That would be correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. I,
Yeah, yeah. So do you have anything that you're working on, projects?
Well, the work always continues. Just like you know, we're helping people raise their vibration, one person at a time, and so that they can help their family and their friends raise their vibration, so that they can, you know, the expansion process. So that's it. But the work will amount, and it is happening right now to the point where there's enough information
Hmm.
that could be put into some sort of a book or something that could perhaps reach more people. Sort of like Brian Weiss's book reached millions of people to help them awaken. Okay, so that is something that is always on my mind that will happen soon one day. And when I write the book,
Yeah.
you'll be interviewing for that, obviously.
I'd love that. I'd be honored
Yeah,
to. Yeah.
yeah,
Incredible.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the work continues.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah.
Where can people find you if they'd like to book a session with you?
They can go to my website. It's my name.com. So it would be albertcrimi.com. I don't know if you'll be putting that in the
I will be.
whatever that is.
Yeah.
And so they can go there. And Facebook, of course, they can go to my Facebook page. And once you know my name, it's easy to find.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
awesome. That's really cool.
And and on Facebook, I do a series which I call Hypnosis Stories of Healing. And in one paragraph, I describe briefly what the client experienced and what they and the profound change or whatever change they had on the other side.
Mhm.
Yeah. So yeah, really interesting.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, Albert, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for coming on the podcast again. And thank
Thank you.
you for sharing your gifts with me, with my audience, and with your community and the world.
Very good. Thank you, Bernadette. It was a lot of fun. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.